MGX Minerals is revolutionizing the new energy economy with patented lithium extraction technology, replacing traditional solar evaporation using low-cost, low-energy nanofiltration. The first system of this paradigm shift technology is currently being commissioned. MGX Minerals trades on the CSE, symbol XMG, the OTCQB, symbol MGXMF, and Frankfurt, symbol 1MG. For more information, visit our website, mgxminerals.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sharon Noble, director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. Welcome back to the show, and best of the season, Sharon.
Thank you, Jim, and the best of seasons to you and to all your listeners.
Sharon, the arrest of the Huawei executive in Vancouver at the behest of the U.S. hasn't just stirred up an international nest of intrigue with a couple of Canadians accused of spying in China now. Is this the thin edge of the wedge here? Because you warned us about Huawei and its founder, who's worth $3.2 billion, who was part of the Chinese security agency, and the U.S. State Department saying these things could be spy devices, sending all of your information directly to Beijing. You echoed that. Does this arrest kind of confirm your suspicions? And what are your concerns about those particular devices?
I can't really say whether this arrest confirms it because it seems to be on a different basis. My understanding is that the arrest is an accusation, based on an accusation in the U.S. of that the financial vice president violated sanctions by dealing with Iran. Who knows what that's about? But Huawei has been banned now in quite a few different countries. Banned from dealing with cell phones and specifically with 5G. As I've told you so many times, and your listeners now probably are tired of hearing, but TELUS has partnered with Huawei, and all of these microcell transmitters that are being put outside our homes contain Huawei transmitters. And the intelligence agencies in many countries have warned that they believe that Huawei has the capability not only of gathering data and spying on us, but of getting into our infrastructure itself, and at some point down the road having the capability, perhaps the desire, who knows what, to attack us. And as many of the intelligence agencies, including CSIS recently, say that the next attack is not going to be a nuclear attack. It's not going to be with guns. It's going to be with computers. And as we've known and we've seen all along, banks and the Pentagon and NATO and all these other agencies are in fact being hacked. Their data is being stolen. Our data is being stolen. National intelligence agencies are warning that the capability is there to attack our grid. The attack will come not from nuclear weapons or guns, as I said. It will come through turning off our power. And if we use electricity, if we lose the ability to pump gas, to get heat, to get fuel, to get food, people are going to be dying, and there will be chaos within days. This is not just pie in the sky. This is a real threat.
Now, has there been any reaction from Ottawa about these concerns?
CSIS wrote a major report saying that they believe that there's going to be, quote, economic interference by Huawei. And they believe that this is the next form of terrorism. Ottawa has been sitting on this now for months, maybe even longer. But with all the other countries giving warnings, Ottawa hasn't said a thing. They said, oh, we believe our system is safe. We've got good cybersecurity people. Don't worry. Now they're saying, well, maybe we will review things. So, no, they're not really doing anything yet, Jim. But people at the top in the intelligence agencies now here in Canada are saying, watch out. This is not just a possibility. It's real. And it's just a matter of time.
Do you think the Chinese government might have planted spies in corporations like TELUS to make these decisions?
I have no idea, but it's certainly a possibility. There are people from China. There are people in Canada working for Huawei who may have been affiliated with Huawei. They may very well be very dedicated people doing things that they don't even understand that could benefit the Chinese government. Huawei, as with any major Chinese company, is bound to follow Chinese regulations and laws and desires. And there is no reason that I understand why Huawei should have access to our homes, to our data, and to our infrastructure, for instance, via Site C. Why should they be part and parcel of this new technology that's coming in place when there are North American companies that could do this? I just don't understand. But if you go into Best Buy or any of the major telecommunications outfits or stores that sell them, you see Huawei all over the place. They are there and they're there to stay until the government bans them, as they have done in so many other countries.
And of course, I know the attitude is out there. We're little old Canada. We're not out to hurt anybody or whatever. But the Russians had a major spy operation at a television shop in Vancouver that nobody suspected all these antennas and everything on it because it was just a little old television shop. And it turned out to be one of the major Russian spyways into North America. Do you think we're too complacent about it because we're just little old Canadians? We'd never do anything to hurt somebody, so why should they come in and spy on us?
It sure seems that way, doesn't it, Jim? I think that maybe we feel that we're not important enough to be attacked. They'll go after the United States. They'll go after Britain. But we all have to remember that in this day and age, we're all interconnected. And if they attack the United States, they attack us. And if we're vulnerable and the United States has taken action to protect itself, we may be the entry point for their attack. And by attacking us, they can get into the U.S. system. I'm not an expert on this. I don't pretend to understand it. It's just that when I look at things and read all the articles, it seems like this is something that we shouldn't take a chance with. We see so many things happening these days, and it just seems like something that we need to be concerned about now before it happens. I think that, as we've been warned that the smart meters are the most vulnerable part of the electrical grid, that this is the way that an attack or a hack or an accident will happen that will bring our power grid down. So too are we being warned that companies like Huawei can infiltrate our system very easily. We think that we are protecting ourselves because our data is, what's the term? Our data is encrypted. That's not good enough anymore. When Hydro says you're safe because your data is encrypted, don't they think that NATO and the U.S. military and the banks and the credit cards encrypt their data? It's just naive of us to think that we're not vulnerable.
We'll have more with Sharon Noble right after this.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO, on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp. is a Canadian-based mineral exploration project generator. The company currently holds multiple property interests in Ontario with joint venture partners and is seeking further joint venture partners for other drill-ready properties in our portfolio. For more information, please visit our website at rmroyalty.com or call me at 604-922-2030.
Vatic Ventures Corp. is a potash exploration company focused on the Korat Basin in Thailand, the world's largest undeveloped potash resource. Vatic's management has extensive potash exploration and development experience in Thailand. Vatic will have marketing advantage compared to Western producers. Drill program commences this spring. Vatic trades on the TSX Venture, symbol VCV, and on Frankfurt, symbol V8V2. Visit our website, vaticventures.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sharon Noble. Sharon, the Canadian Privacy Commissioner really criticized the Stats Canada for allowing the Canadian Revenue Agency to rummage through your bank accounts, with them saying, oh, it's secure, we'll destroy your name after we're finished gathering all this data, and now they've stopped. At least they've publicly said that. We don't know if they really have. Is this one of the concerns that you have as well? Is once a government agency gets its hands on data, there is no guarantee it won't be shared or stolen.
Yes, that seems to be the case. And the Canadian Privacy Commissioner is pushing right now for stricter laws to protect our digital privacy. They're putting out warnings that kind of flow into the topic of cybersecurity, but also saying that we need to be able to rest assured that our data is private. And they're asking for more laws, stricter regulations, but the other ministers and some of the other departments are looking at it and say, not if it's going to affect us economically. You know, we have to weigh in balance here. Is privacy so expensive that we can't afford it? May it cost us to have some problems with some of our corporations? This is ridiculous, in my opinion. We have our rights, and the corporations have had their way too long in trampling on these rights. And finally, someone in the guise of the privacy commissioner is saying, hey, enough is enough. We've got to do something. I do think it's up to the Canadian people to stop being so laid back. We need to present the fact to our MPs and to everyone that we want our privacy protected. We want our data protected. Our data is so very, very valuable. This is something that the corporations have been rubbing their hands about for decades. And now they're saying, you know, like Itron, the company that has made the smart meters that are on our homes, have admitted that the intention behind the smart meters all along is to get their hands on ways of being able to use the data, to gather more data, and to be able to use it for commercial reasons. Our data is not for sale. Our data is our private data. It's not for the corporations. But this seems to be something that's getting lost in the translation. And as we get more and more connected to the Internet, with the Internet of Things, they're going to be connecting to so many different devices in our home. If anyone has gone out to try to buy a new refrigerator or a new television, just about anything that's new, they're called smart. What this means is that they've got the ability, usually through a Zigbee chip, to gather data about how we're using it, when we're using it, how long we're using it, what type of product is it, how old is it, etc. This is stuff that the corporations want to get their hands on. I mean, they have built data centers that are immense. I believe there's one near Kelowna. Somebody told me it is one of the biggest buildings they've ever seen. There are others that are being built all over North America to gather and keep our data. This isn't just something that is for billing purposes only. If the data were for billing purposes only, would they really need that much data? According to the electric tariff, according to the Clean Energy Act, the only right that they have to our data is for billing purposes. And they are infringing upon that right. They are breaking the laws. And the more access they have through the Zigbee chips, through the smart devices, the more data they're going to get. And they're just looking at more. The utilities are just so anxious to get there. And if anyone wants to go on my updates, I've provided several articles over the last couple of weeks about the privacy issue and about the data issue. And, for instance, on the 14th of December, there's an article in which it speaks about, the title is A Smart World Needs the Right Data. And it's talking about how the energy companies are gathering data from the households, the consumers, putting the networks together into the local grids, and putting it into the local infrastructure for other commercial use. This is the reason we should be concerned.
We'll have more with Sharon Noble right after the break.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sharon Noble. Sharon, you're citing more studies that showing 5G waves are damaging to tissue?
Yes, there was a new study that just came out a week or so ago that confirmed some of the other studies showing that the high frequencies, the milliwaves that are being planned for the microcells outside our homes damages tissues. Many experts are saying, we don't have enough studies. This is something that's so very, very new that we can only suspect the significance of the damage that's going to be done. The milliwaves don't penetrate as deeply as the longer waves do. The longer waves that get to our heart, that get to our brains, all of these things. We know that those are dangerous. We've got many, many years and thousands of studies that show how dangerous those are. But the milliwaves are so very, very new that there aren't that many studies. But the few studies that have been done and have been made public indicate that the surface of the skin is very, very vulnerable, that the sweat glands act almost as antenna to bring the milliwaves down into the skin tissue. Also, the parts of our body, like our eyes, that are on the surface, are extremely vulnerable. Our eyes are basically fluid, and of course, liquids are some of the things that are most vulnerable to microwaves and milliwaves. That's why, with the microwaves, breasts and testes and the brain are so very, very vulnerable. But with milliwaves, it's our eyes because they don't penetrate that deeply. But this most recent study that came out confirms the other studies. So, the warnings are there. Experts, more than 200 scientists, have written to various agencies, including the United Nations, saying this has to be stopped. This is just crazy. This is RF on steroids. And there is really no justification for it. The only reason for 5G that the industry can explain, that the industry gives, is to allow those people who download things like movies and games to be able to do it more quickly. And they say to provide internet to areas out in the rural area that don't really have good internet right now. But of course, that's a fallacy. The industry itself said 5G is so intense. It needs to be what they call densified. The milliwaves do not travel very far. They don't go nearly as far as microwaves, the longer cells that are put out by cell towers. They only go a few hundred feet at a time. So you need the small cells that are going to act as relay transmitters. So it goes 100 or 200 meters, and then it goes to another cell that sends it another 100 or 200 meters. If these were going to be used out in the rural areas, it just wouldn't be very efficient. So that's not going to be done, at least not given the current level of technology as I understand it and the way the industry is talking about it. Rather, it's going to be done in the cities where people already have access to so much Wi-Fi and so much RF. Does it matter that it was going to take another 2 seconds for their movie to download? Is that reason enough for our environment to be even more heavily polluted with this stuff? This is what's going to happen, though. And the scientists are warning, we can't stand any more pollution. Our bodies are already being polluted 24 hours a day, every day, no matter where we go. If it's not cell towers, then it's the Wi-Fi hotspots. If it's not the Wi-Fi hotspot, it's your cordless phone in your home, or your smartphone, or your cordless phone. All of these things are being used ubiquitously, and we are being harmed. We can't stand having any more.
Ontario's Workplace Safety Organization is now concerned about the exposure of workers to all this radiation. What are you hearing?
There was an article just not long ago where the Ontario Ministry was suggesting that because of the recent studies, the NTP study by the National Toxicology Program in the U.S., the 10-year, $25 million study, and the 10-year Ramazzini study from Italy, both of which confirm the thousands of studies that have shown that microwave radiation is carcinogenic. Carcinogenic at very, very low levels. The Ramazzini study was done using the level of radiation to which most of us are exposed every day in our normal lives. It's not the high level of studies, a high level of radiation first by putting a cell phone next to your head. It's the level of radiation you get by sitting in your living room. And the conclusion came that it increased the incidence of glioblastomas in your brain, and significantly, very rare tumors of the heart, schwannomas of the heart, plus other cancers. The Ontario Ministry looked at this and said, our workers, whether they're in offices, in schools, wherever, are being exposed to high levels of radiation, and these studies really are game changers. As far as I know, nothing has happened yet, but it was significant, I thought, that the Ontario Ministry for Workplace Safety, I believe that was the title, I'm sorry, I don't know the exact title of the ministry right now, but that they did put out this news about these new studies and the effect of them and the significance of them. People in British Columbia need to know that nobody seems to be paying attention here. In British Columbia, there is a occupational safety that determines if workers are being endangered in their workplace. And there's the regulations state that if there is a 2B carcinogen in a workplace, and that would be like lead or toxic fumes from some of the industrial gases or DDT, that the worker should not be exposed to any of these things if there is something else to use in its place. But when I asked, okay, then this means that microwave radiation from wireless transmitters, for instance, in schools, should not be used because teachers and children are being exposed. I was told no. It doesn't apply to microwave radiation, even though it too is a 2B carcinogen. They say because Health Canada has set regulations saying that we're allowed to be exposed to hundreds, if not thousands, of levels higher than what the biological scientists are saying are dangerous, that we have nothing to worry about. So nobody in the workplace can depend upon occupational safety to protect us from microwave radiation, even though it is in the same category as lead, DDT, and all these toxic gases. The Ontario Ministry is looking at it. I haven't seen a single thing from British Columbia yet to indicate that they're looking at it.
Is it true all those fast food workers that are wearing the wireless headsets do not have the right to not wear them?
Probably. If their employers tell them that they have to. Probably. Just as the people who work at McDonald's are exposed to it, the people at Best Buy are exposed to it. In addition, people who are working, even if they aren't wearing the headsets, in many of the places now they've got Wi-Fi throughout for the sake of their customers who want to come in and have a cup of coffee. The customers may be in there for half an hour, but the people who are working there are exposed to that Wi-Fi all day. So, yeah, I think it's probably a fact that they don't have a choice.
TransLink in Vancouver just announced that all of its SkyTrains, its buses, the C-Bus were all going to be wired up with Shaw Wi-Fi. Is that a hazard to the public?
Oh, it's extremely hazardous. It's even more so because they're sitting in an imposed Faraday cage. A Faraday cage, if anyone remembers Skinner's box, it's a metal container like your microwave oven where the waves bounce around, and the bouncing around increases its danger, because you're not only getting exposed to it one way, you're being exposed to it each way as it's bouncing off these hard surfaces. And buses and trains and cars are metal. So if you've got, for instance, a cell phone in your car or in a bus, that cell phone radiation is reaching you from several different angles, and it's increasing your exposure dramatically as it's bouncing around. So yeah, Jim, that's dangerous stuff. You're going to end up with people who are unable to travel at all, people who are sensitive. And there is a growing number of people who have been overexposed to this stuff, who just can't take it anymore, or people with cancers, or people with medical devices like pacemakers and dialysis units and deep brain implants. They're not going to be able to travel on these public transportation systems anymore.
And what about the bus drivers or the people who work on the C-bus or at a SkyTrain station?
Absolutely. And they should know that the insurance companies will not protect them. The major insurance companies do not cover health effects, health problems related to exposure to microwave radiation.
Right, you're the person who exposed that. The Lloyd's of London decided years ago that it would no longer cover anything related to, magnetic radiation.
That's right. Yes, I did. I found that in a policy, and I confirmed it with Lloyd's of London, and then I put it out for others. We found that many, as far as I know, all of the major insurance companies now include that. People should know that Lloyd's of London is a company that will take insurance risks that other insurance companies won't take. They insure professional sports people. They insured, motorcyclists. They insure skydivers. They insure all sorts of dangerous occupations and dangerous hobbies. But about 10 years ago, they stopped insuring microwave radiation.
The U.S. Association of Psychologists has a concern. What is it?
Right now, the addiction of young people to screen time is a major topic of discussion. Kids, as we've seen everywhere, regardless, they're being exposed to microwave radiation while they're sitting on their little potties, while they're in bed with their baby monitors. They're being exposed to this, and they're being given devices to entertain themselves. There are devices showing how you train your child to go potty. Give them this little device that looks like a smartphone, and they sit there and they look at their devices. They can use these little computers before they can talk. And as a result, their brains are changing. And many children, by the time they're 10 or 12, are considered to be addicted. And also by the time they're 10 or 12, there are studies that show it. In fact, there was a recent one on 60 Minutes, CBC 60 Minutes on December 9th, I think it was, showing that a recent study concluded that the brain cortex is thinned in children who are exposed to more than 7 hours a day. Now that sounds like a horrendous amount, but a study by the Association of American Psychologists Association said that the average child, I think they said young teens in the age of 12 to 13, I think that was the age range, use screen time at least 7 hours a day. And this is for entertainment. This is not for school. So school would add to this exposure. And the American psychologists, yesterday, in something that I put in an update, are accusing other psychologists of becoming what we call bent. They're being bought by the telecommunications industry to help devise ways to make these kids addicted. They have become their future customers, and they will not be able to be satisfied. They feel lost. On 60 Minutes, it wasn't a week ago, but it was about a few weeks ago, they had another show that showed that kids, when they take their cell phones away from them, they become agitated. They become nervous. They become, some become abusive and physically dangerous. They were hitting out at their parents. The true signs of addiction. They need that kick, that kick to their brain that they're getting, the serotonin or whatever it is that gives them that rush. So when they're on the Facebook, for instance, and get a like, all of a sudden their brain gets a kick, like caffeine. And these psychologists who are selling out their ethical standards to the telecommunications industry to help addict these children to these wireless devices. I would suggest that people go, and if you don't get my updates, Google the American Psychological Association addiction and read up on it. It's really quite amazing. They've talked about, how you do this. I think they call it the persuasive element, where you could use these same techniques to help people stop smoking, to lose weight. There are ways that you can do it so that you can give people gratification for reaching a goal. Well, they're using this same basic idea to addict them to the wireless devices that they've got, to the screens. Parents are facing this every day. You can't talk to your kids. They aren't doing their homework. They're not doing their jobs around the house. They won't even talk to anybody because they're so busy on their little devices. I'm sure everybody's noticed that as you go into a restaurant or if you walk by a group of teenagers, they're not talking. They're not exercising. They're not doing things that we did, or they're not doing things that kids did even 20 years ago. This is all brand new stuff. And we haven't yet figured out how to live with it or without it. It's a terrible situation, and it seems to be getting worse.
Is BC Hydro still attacking people who refuse to give up their analog meters?
Oh man, are they? Yep, they're coming more and more. They are now telling people that you don't have a choice. We're going to shut your power off if you don't relinquish your analog. And this is these people, many of them. I mean, we've got thousands of people who have paid so much money to Hydro over the last 5 years to keep their analogs. This was after Bill Bennett, and this is after Rich Coleman, and Christy Clark, and then John Horgan, who said, we understand your concerns. You can keep these things. You won't be forced to have them. We will allow you to opt out if you will pay us $36 a month. I mean, add up all the money that has been received by BC Hydro. I calculate it's probably close to $50 million in extortion fees that they've collected. And now all of a sudden they're telling people, doesn't matter. You paid all this money. Thanks a lot. Now you're getting your smart meter. And people are very, very upset, and rightly so. John Horgan has sold them down the river. He made a promise. He made a commitment when he was running for office that he would have this program reviewed. And he won't even answer our emails. He won't meet with people. He won't do anything. And I suspect and I know that his ministers, like Maureen Mungle, the energy minister who is responsible for Hydro, she's not responding to emails either. I suspect that he's saying, ignore them. They'll go away. By the next election, this will be a non-issue. It's not going to be a non-issue. And I'll tell you why. Even if everyone receives a smart meter, we're going to keep fighting this because it is a dangerous precedent. If we allow this to stand, what's next? Are we going to be told that we have to have a smart gas meter or a smart water meter? Or even worse, are we going to be told that those chips, those Zigbee chips that are in the smart meter have to be activated? Most people don't know there are 2 transmitters in the smart meter. One works on the 900 megahertz range, And it is the one that sends the data off into the mesh grid. It sends all sorts of data that it's collecting, we don't know what, and sends it off wirelessly. Then there's another meter, and it works on a transmitter. It works in the 2.4 gigahertz range, and it's a Zigbee chip. People should look it up on the internet and read what a Zigbee chip is. These are things that are also in every smart appliance. Chips that communicate, and they're there for the purpose of gathering our data. And the Zigbee chips talk to each other throughout your house. Someone wrote to me today and said, you don't need to worry because they only transmit through line of sight. Well, I don't know about you, but my refrigerator is next to my stove. And my stove can communicate with my dishwasher. And my dishwasher can communicate with a television. And my television can communicate with something else. These bounce back and forth through our homes with all their data. You know, what type of machine is it? How old is it? How much do you use it? How many hours a day? Some people say, and I can't say that this is true, but some experts say that it can get so granular that your smart television, which by the way has both a camera and a microphone in it so that it can see you and it can hear you. Many of them, like Samsung, is so smart that if you clap your hand, it will change a channel for you. Or if you say, Alexa, change my channel, this sort of thing. These things are gathering data and will transmit it to your smart meter, which will transmit it outward for commercial purposes. And right now Hydro says, we aren't activating the Zigbee chip. Well, they also told us we wouldn't need to have a smart meter if we didn't want one. What's the next step? Are they going to tell us that if we want to have power, we've got to have that Zigbee chip activated, which will be communicating with all these devices in our home, increasing the microwave radiation to which our children are exposed while they're sleeping, to which we will be exposed without any of our knowledge? We won't know it. You can't feel it, you can't smell it, you can't see it. But it's there. Your body knows. Your cells are feeling it. I fear that we have a precedent that hydro is running rampant. And this is just the beginning. They won this one. They forced it to have our smart meters. What's next? And I'm just hoping that people will stand up and say, no, we don't want these bloody smart meters. We want them taken off our homes. They are invasive. They're gathering data that they shouldn't be. They've made my home into a commercial enterprise. I want it out. They're fire hazards. Hydro still isn't admitting that there are any fires. They're still telling people there haven't been. They are, I know I'm not supposed to use the word, but Hydro is lying when they say that these things are safe, when they say that they're secure. They've lied to us for the last 10 years. And I wonder if the government, even under Clark, had known the truth, would they have stopped this? And I think it's not too late. I think that we need to get to Horgan, we need to get to our MLAs, we need to get to the public. Somehow get the public to know that these things, this is happening, and we've got a very dangerous precedent on our hands, and we should not be standing for it.
Sharon, thank you so much for chatting with us.
As always, Jim, it's been wonderful. I appreciate it, and I hope you and your listeners have a wonderful Christmas.
And the best to you.
Thank you.
My guest has been Sharon Noble, BC Commissioner of the Coalition to Stop Smart Meters in BC. If you have any questions for Sharon or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. You can find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Best of the season.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.